trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. We keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Amadaya production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading on light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. We keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading on light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream.
Forgot I was muted. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen AmadayAShakur show. I'm your host, Queen AmadayAShakur, and this is your daily vitamins. Okay, so as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, and so we have Mr. Gavin Richard, our legal expert here in the virtual building today. Okay, so he can give us some insight, all right, into this whole situation with Carmelo Anthony. Now, with that all being said, let me see who's in here. All right, we the people, Trisha, Claudette, Chris B, Greta Lee. All right, let's get into it. Black Butterfly. All right. Shout out to all of my loyal royals. I see you, C-Stands, DJ The Truth, CJ the Cats. All right. Buckhorse DC, Deronda, Lil Bro. Okay, so with that being said, I see OG Patrice, Desmond. Shout out to all of my loyal royals and everyone tuning into the Queen. And a big shout out to my moderators because they be putting in work. So before me and Gavin get into the commentary, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
All right, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. And don't forget that she sells beard oil as well. Okay, so hey, Gavin, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Queen. Good afternoon to you in the chat, and shout out to 12 Tribes, your sponsors. I just wish I had gotten them about 5 years ago. Maybe they could have helped me. So, uh, yeah.
Gavin, you are something else. Okay, let's get some fire emojis in the chat for Gavin, you guys. Fire emojis in the chat, and you all moderators, please be on the lookout for the trolls. Okay, because we know they're mad. Okay, so Gavin, I wanted to ask you, well, first of all, listen, have you seen the interview that Jeff Metcalf did with Fox yesterday?
I have not.
You have not. Let's go to that because I want to hear what he has to say. Now, I've seen bits and pieces over on TikTok where people reposted some of it, but I want to get into it because the part that I saw was where he was talking about how he went to meet with a family and wanted to pray with them, and he's trying to act like he's all humble and all of this, but did he forget that we saw that rant where he was talking all the trash about Black folk? Okay, so let's go to it. I took the liberty of already having it queued. So let's just see what he's talking about. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. Gavin's not going to be here for the whole time. So let's take advantage of him while we can. Okay, and his expertise. Let's get
Jeff
into it.
Metcalf joins me now here in Dallas. Jeff, thanks for being with us here today.
Thank you, Will. Thanks for having me.
You know, I think I'd love to just start this conversation with some of what I just shared with the audience. This is not new to you. I'm sure you've seen the video and heard the 911 call. I did notice you took your earpiece out. You didn't want to hear that audio again of the 911 call.
Correct.
Just too hard to hear it again and to see this video.
And there's another body cam footage that hasn't been released, and it has some pretty graphic details, and I can hear my son screaming, and it's something I don't really want to care to listen to again.
Totally understandable. What, with this video's release, Jeff, do you hope the public can see about this moment?
Well, I mean, obviously, the trial not being publicly viewed live, there's so many minors involved, and that's a different subject I could talk about on its own, because look at the damage that these young students who had to witness this murder, who have to live with this for the rest of their life. Every one of them, I believe, are in counseling. PTSD could be a thing. I mean, this is a trauma that you carry the rest of your life, possibly. Hopefully they can get the help they need and move forward and not be scarred from it. Me personally, I'm the same way. I need the help too, to make sure that I can move forward. And that's what I really want to concentrate on, is moving forward. I hope this video can clear up a lot of the misinformation that was provided throughout the entire year before the trial came to light. There were multiple lies and mistruths that were put on social media, that were spoken by even individuals that have some fame. People had their own opinions without even seeing the facts. And that's the part I have trouble with.
What do you make of that? Candidly, with the audience, you and I spoke a little bit earlier today, and it's one of the great mysteries for me, and how something that is so clear, the facts so obvious, was turned into something that was this great national discussion of race. I think you called it earlier. How did this become George Floyd 2.0?
Unfortunately, in today's moral decay of society, people believe that if they have their own voice, they scream loud enough, they're right. And they believe perception is their own reality. It may not be truth, but in their mind, it is their own reality. For a person to not able to objectively look at something, use common logic, common sense, to come to a determination just based on merely the facts, not the color of one's skin.
No, let me stop right there, Gavin. Okay, so let me say this. He said based on the facts, not the color of one's skin. No, Gavin, I would like to know your thoughts on this, if you think this thing was about race, because I clearly do. And it's interesting because he said from the beginning, let's not make it about race, right?
Right.
But we can obviously tell this is about race because, Gavin, do you think that all of this would be going on if Carmelo had been in an incident with a Black teenager?
If it were Carmelo being involved with a Black teenager, I don't think we would have
If
heard.
the person,
Even
if the person
if
who
the
had
person
died.
was the victim was Black, probably more than 9 times out of 10, no, we wouldn't have heard anything about it other than on social media. Fox News
Mm-hmm.
for sure would not. They would only talk about it if someone were critiquing someone on a racial issue and say, "Well, why? What about Black on Black violence or something along
Right.
those lines?" That's typically what we've seen from here. And let me say this: I
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't in the courtroom, so I only going on. I don't know what was said other than what everything that has come out, of course, what people have reported and what's been coming out slowly. But obviously, it was clear from the beginning that
Mm-hmm.
this whole thing was about race, especially when they had a whites only march that they were trying to do a few months ago.
Right, and I forgot about that.
And yes, and at least, and to his credit, Mr. Metcalf, Jeff Metcalf, did tell them to go home because he felt that they were fanning the flames
Mm-hmm.
that were already there. The racial element is always present, especially in the courtroom, and from what I'm hearing in that county. And look,
Mm-hmm.
I do feel sorry. I don't have children, but so I can only imagine. Obviously, somebody's pain, whether they're Black or white, of losing a
Right,
child.
absolutely.
Nobody ever wants to hear that. And these were teenagers
Mm-hmm.
that it happened. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I also have to say though, the process, while Carmelo has been found guilty, there is a process called the appellate process that, and I know we're going to talk about later, that now the courts, if they found any errors, they're going to have a hearing and review it. So
Mm-hmm.
criminal procedures is not over just yet until the appellate process has been satisfied.
Okay.
Hmm.
And another thing, do you think that if his life was taken by a white person, a white teenager, do you think it would be all of this big to do about it?
It might have made Inside Edition maybe one time, and then that might have been it.
Exactly. And so I'm just saying, I asked you those questions just to say that if, of course, it's about race because it's a Black teenager who took the life of a white teenager. And we know the value of white people's lives, specifically when it involves a Black person defending themselves against them. So it was already about race from the
Yeah.
beginning. Okay, let's hear what else he has to say.
That tells me a whole lot about your character if you choose that direction.
And you told me you feel like you know the moment this became more than simply a horrible tragedy and a crime story in North Texas, where it became this larger thing, and it was that press conference.
Yes, sir. I do believe that was probably one of the turning points. I was there to show up to pray. I was hoping we could show the world this wasn't a racial divide thing, that we could kind of close the gap instead of widening it. But at that point, they'd obviously retained the services of Dominic Alexander, a convicted baby-shaking felon advocate who decided to throw me out of the press conference, had me removed by police, and then proceeded to gaslight me and tell me how I was such, I can't remember the word he used, but that I shouldn't have been there, and it was not dignified to my son or myself, which I really couldn't quite understand as they proceeded to gaslight me. And also took it, there was a young lady who has followed the case also from the entire time. Her name is Sarah Fields. Also showed information about her. That's when they took it from any type of remorse, which they did not show, to the fact of now we're going to play the race card. And now we're going to politicize this. Now we're getting a political activist involved. The two things I said on one of the first interviews I ever did was, please don't make this about race and please don't politicize it. But they chose to do both.
And your goal that day was to simply get together and pray?
All I wanted, yeah. I was actually hoping to show them, hey, look, man, I know what happened was terrible. And your son made a horrible mistake. I was hoping for some accountability maybe and some remorse. Neither one was shown.
Have you ever spoken to the Anthonys?
No.
No apology, no remorse?
Nothing.
Here's what comes off a bowl of strawberries.
Okay, so Gavin, what do you think about that? Because initially, when he went there to meet with them,
Mm-hmm.
I felt like he should not have been kicked out. And I expressed that when I reported on it. I said that guy, Dominic Alexander, I don't think he gave them good advice by asking them or by asking him to leave. But now, in hindsight, now that we know that he's so racist at the heart of it all, I have to question what was his actual motive for being there. Was he just putting on a show? It just seems like it was disingenuous.
Well, I have a
I
better
mean, now in
question.
hindsight.
How did Mr. Alexander get hired and hooked up with the Anthonys is a question. Because here's the thing. They're going to look at anybody, especially everybody this was a high profile case. They were going to
Mhm.
look at anyone and everyone you hired. They'll check everything on you from your birth rec certificate. They're going to check your criminal history. They'll even look at your dental records. That's how
Mhm.
much, and for him to have that. Now, I'm not saying because of his criminal record or history that he can't be a spokesperson or can't have a living. No, I'm not saying that at all. But you look at that, and especially certain things that are said. Yes, I think it could have certainly. And lead attorney, I listened to him. He actually did a breakdown of that. He thought that press conference with Minister Alexander, that was a mistake on how they handled it, because had
Yeah, it
they
was.
had they been a little bit more open, had they been talking, maybe this could have been, I'm not going to say a different outcome, but maybe it could have been a mitigating factor in something. Maybe the prosecution would have been open to a plea deal. Maybe there could have been things of that nature because they didn't have any plea deals for it. That being said,
Right.
I also noticed that now this was the same man a week ago who was on a podcast, or he was doing a live stream of some sorts. He
Yeah,
called
talking trash.
he was not only talking trash, but he made racial
Mhm.
insults, calling Carmelo Anthony watermelon felon. He even called
Exactly.
Carmelo Anthony's mother. Uh, I don't
A
want to say,
bitch. I
yeah,
know.
yeah.
A drunk
So,
bitch. And that's my whole thing. Because, like I said, when he came to the press conference, back then, I had sympathy for him. And I felt like Dominique
sure.
should not have asked him to leave. And then, especially later on, when he said he came to pray, I felt bad for him. Of course, he lost his son and all of that. But now, in hindsight, like I said, I don't feel sorry for him. And now I have to question, why was he really there? Was he really there to be sincere? I just don't think so at this point, in hindsight. But here's the thing. I don't know how Carmelo's family got hooked up with Dominic Alexander, but I
Mhm.
think it was definitely a mistake, because not only does he have that criminal history, but I also thought it was a terrible idea to have a press conference in the first place.
Well, I think they should have been consulting through their. So look, there's a lot of it woulda, coulda, shoulda with a lot of stuff, especially even who they had as an attorney. And I don't,
Hmm.
and Lord, it's not for me to actually try and second guess an attorney. I'm not going to snitch, but there were things I think, and you and I talked on the phone about this, that I thought the attorney didn't do correctly, especially in the sentencing phase. And it looked
Hmm.
like they were unprepared, which
Yeah,
would have been, yeah, if you call one witness up in a sentencing phase and you only ask them one question, come on. You could
right.
call, yeah, you could call multiple witnesses. And look, I don't know the lawyer. I think from what I've heard, he's very competent. We've talked about him before. I mean, he's
Hmm.
been practicing law for almost 20 something longer than I have. But and yeah, some attorneys, they have different strategies too. Like why
Hmm.
did he didn't call him on the witness stand? Maybe he felt he would have gotten obliterated by the prosecutors. Keep in mind, a defendant is not required to take the witness stand if they don't want to. But in a self-defense case, normally I would put on either my client as a witness or uh, other witnesses that were there if they would be helpful to them in some way. So, but no, Jeff Metcalf, to get back to him, it was clear uh, he showed his true colors. True color, especially during this trial. Afterwards, I certainly think that, like I say again, uh, could it be that people may say, well, he's hurt and so forth. He can be hurt, but you know something? He did himself a disservice, especially now for an appeal, because you've been saying let's not make it about race, but you're
Right.
making racial stereotypes about someone.
Hmm.
And you just said, well,
Exactly.
so you basically confirm, not only are you confirming that, but this is not the first time I know you said it, and I certainly think you said it around your boys.
Exactly.
And that might be something why he thought he was entitled to tell Carmelo
Mhm.
Anthony to get from under the tent. It's not your tent. It's not your stadium. And let me say this, Carmelo Anthony wasn't the one that initially broke the law.
That's right.
It was
They assaulted
Metcalf.
him first. Whether you want to say it's a push, punch,
It was a
whatever, you put hands on someone without their consent, that's assault.
It is assault. It's a misdemeanor.
Mhm.
Now, do I think if someone shoved me, do I want to pull out a knife or a gun and attack them? No. I would rather.
Now let's talk about that, Gavin. Let's talk about that because they've painted this narrative. Okay, now you give me your thoughts on it because they said in the trial, it was testified to, right? That Carmelo had the backpack. He had his hand in the backpack the whole time, sitting down, and he said touch me and see what happens. And that they say that he pulled a knife out of the backpack, right?
Mhm.
So my thing was Hunter Metcalf did 2 interviews before the trial. He did them like shortly after the incident occurred. And he said that Austin grabbed the backpack. And the father said the same thing. And I'm sure he got that from Hunter. But so if Austin grabbed the backpack and threw it, then that means it was not in Carmelo's hand the whole time.
Well,
And if it wasn't in his hand the whole time, how did he get the knife out of there if they had taken it and thrown it? That's one question. But hold on. Then there was a news report that came out from Fox 4. Now, people in Frisco and Dallas claim to have seen this, but they said that news broadcast was snatched down. Okay, so in the news broadcast, this was recorded the same day it happened, right? As the ambulance was leaving the field. They said it was Hunter Metcalf and 2 of his friends, and they told the news reporter that Carmelo picked up the tool that Hunter and Austin had used to put up the tent. Said that he picked that up after Austin punched him in the face. So as big as Austin is, if he punched him in the face, I believe he probably did pick up something. And then not to mention there was 4 of them. And with that being said, now what's your thoughts on that if that's true?
Well, first off, let me address because in tying all of that with some questions, because somebody said, Miss Mandy said he was told to leave 15 times. If you ever played in competitive sports, you know you don't go underneath the other team's tent. Ma'am, it was raining that day. There was no competing going on. If you looked, I clearly saw it was wet. My understanding, it was a timeout, and he was invited over there. Trespassing, and I'm not familiar with. And look, I'm not
I'm
like
putting Miss Mandy out of here because she's clearly a troll. But
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm explaining this. There's text. I'm not an expert in Texas law. I'm not licensed to practice there, but trespassing, you have to be told. You typically, and I'm just giving you an example here in Louisiana. Trespassing would be if you are on a premises where you're not supposed to be, and someone of authority were to tell you this is my property, or so, and they ask you to leave and you refuse to. That's trespassing. Now,
right.
and as far as him being surrounded, here was the thing, Queen. Here's the thing, Queen. Nobody, unfortunately, testified at the witnesses that happened. That's not what was done in the case. I have to go on as an attorney what the facts were. Now, the video and footage, in my opinion, however, is not 100% clear. Obviously, it's so far away. You can see action going on, but I can't see and hear see everything. Of course, there's no audio or anything. Now, do I think there are cameras the kids could have been recording when that incident happened? Sure, but we don't have that evidence. We don't have the audio or video. I think ultimately, I don't believe he got a fair shake. And like I said, I like to see the process has to be fair.
That's right.
The process of this stuff has to be fair. If there were witnesses that lied, the job of the trial attorney then is try to impeach them on that credibility. Also, if there were improper jury instructions that were done, and I'm hearing there were things that were said by the judge allegedly, where the judge they say he jokingly told the jurors, and this is something that concerned me, that if they don't hurry up, he was going to sequester them for the night or something along those lines, which I thought was not appropriate, because when you have somebody, especially a teenager's life, that's on the line, and even if he is doing it in a joking way, you don't think any of those jurors thought about that?
Right.
He said that, well, wait a
Absolutely.
minute, we can't stay in here. I'm trying to get home. I want to go and see my wife. I want to go to my kids. That's the thing. Now that's another thing. And when you make objections, an objection is to preserve the record for an appeal. Otherwise,
That's right.
if you don't make any objections to it, unfortunately, you waive that right on appeal. You can't bring it up. That's what happened with I'll give you an example with Sirhan Sirhan. You know, Sirhan Sirhan is the one that's has been convicted of of sending Robert Kennedy Sr. to the shadow realm back in the 60s.
Right.
But
Hold on, Gavin. Hold on. I hate to interrupt you for 1 second, okay? I just want to address this. We have a troll, and I just want to hit them with facts. Okay, so Thomas says, oh, and by the way, the PDF rates are highest in Black communities. First of all, what does that have to do with what we're talking about? But since you wanted to bring that up, okay, let's get into it. Hold on. Now, the fact of the matter is, it is not higher in Black communities. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. As you can see right here, it says white men constitute the vast majority of individuals arrested, convicted, or registered for crimes involving children. Okay? All right, indications that approximately 57% of all sexual violence perpetrators are white, compared to 27 who are Black. All right, please don't come in here with the BS, okay? Because I pull receipts. That's what I do. All right, go ahead, Gavin. I'm sorry for that. I just had to let them know.
Yeah, you just got to ignore these people.
I know I will, but I just had to let that be known.
Right. But all I was saying with that case, for instance, the coroner, Thomas Noguchi, said Robert F. Kennedy was killed by a powder burn that was less than 1 inch behind the right ear. Sirhan Sirhan was no more than 2 feet in front of Robert F. Kennedy. Rosie Greer and Bevel Johnson, who was an Olympic track star. Rosie Greer was with the fearsome foursome with the Los Angeles Rams. They had a hold of him the whole time. And the thing is that the attorney, however, didn't bring Noguchi on and ask questions about it. And so, as such, it appears that there was a second gunman that was involved in that. But Sirhan's never been able to bring it up because because his lawyers didn't do a good job in preserving the record and proving that. So I'm just giving you an example. You know, you got to preserve the record and make your objections count. So
with that all being said, okay, thank you for that, because that's what I was thinking. Now, with that being said, the fact that Mike Howard didn't really make objections, can that be used against him when they're filing for inadequate counsel?
Well, like I say, I don't like snitching on other attorneys or saying if they were ineffective or not, because Lord knows I'm just saying,
me and you are not saying it. I'm saying if they are to file the appeal based on that, would that help their case?
I mean, you can make an argument. Well, no, I'm saying that you can make an argument if they wanted to for ineffective assistance of counsel. I mean, people file appeals all the time. And one of the first people they want to blame is the lawyer. They think that the lawyer didn't do something correctly, or some lawyers, they think their lawyer sold them out by doing this and that and hiding stuff, or didn't disclose everything. But the bottom line comes down to, if you're pleading ineffective assistance of counsel, you would have to be able to show that if it weren't for, and I'm not an appeals attorney, but I did learn this. You would have to be able to show that had it not been for the ineffective assistance of counsel, would the conviction have been overturned, or rather never have happened at all? And that's
right. I get that.
So
yeah, I get that.
So yes, so I mean, they're looking at the trial record. That depends on what his attorneys, new attorneys, find. They could very well bring that up. I don't, I honestly don't know. I do know that obviously the Batson issue is probably going to be the biggest challenge that they're
Yeah,
going to bring up.
definitely.
That certainly will come up also if there were improper jury instructions. So they got to look at the entire record. But yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, can that be? Yeah, can anybody bring something like that up or bring an attorney up? Yeah, everybody tries to blame the attorney if something doesn't go their way. But yeah, a lot of people have had, and I've even had questions, just especially about the sentencing part, which I thought was odd. So,
You thought it was odd
well, I thought he would
because of
have
the
had.
length of time?
Correct. I thought he would have put more people on, defense witnesses in the sentencing aspect.
Yeah,
Whether
and
because in the sentencing aspect, and I've talked to other attorneys who've even practiced criminal defense is the only thing that they
mhm.
do. When you have the sentencing aspect, you can call as many witnesses as you want. He called the mother. He could have called Carmelo Anthony's teachers. Carmelo Anthony has a grade point average. He's in college now. Those are people he could have brought on. Uh, Pastors, his pastor or
His
anybody in
coach, the lady whose
sure,
child, he saved somebody's life. I don't know why that wasn't brought up.
right. Sure, they could have brought that up, and maybe that would have been something in the jury's mind as far as mitigating the sentencing aspect. Maybe he wouldn't have gotten 30 years. I don't know. But and I wasn't, again, I don't have the record in front of me, but I'm sure the prosecutors brought home the fact, you have this kid who comes to track and he's in your community with this knife and so forth and all of these other things. And I'm sure the jurors are thinking about that. Uh, they're, yeah, they're thinking about that. And look, anybody can say they're not going to be influenced by the media, but we know that's not true. People that's the first thing the judges instruct them not to be influenced by the outside, but you go home, anybody can turn their channel on, and that's the first thing they're going to see. They can lie about it and say, "Hey, I'm not influenced by it, and I saw it." I've had somebody who's actually said when there was a trial that came on, I think it was Michael Jackson's thing, and one of the jurors even commented or saw it and told their daughter to turn it off, which I'm glad that they did because they weren't influenced by it. But yeah,
Yeah, I don't think that was really a problem with this case. They didn't even bring that up. I mean, it could have been, but I don't really think they had to even worry about that because to me, the whole thing was a sham anyway. That's just my opinion. Now, what I want to ask you is, do you think it's an issue that witnesses were at Jeff Metcalf's, and these are witnesses for the defense? One specifically by the name of Jose testified for the defense. And but his information basically didn't help the defense. It likely helped the prosecutor. And so, but do you think it's an issue during the appeals process that this particular witness was at Jeff Metcalf's house?
Oh, I'm not
Like,
aware. I'm not
he
aware
was
of that.
invited there for
So,
a cookout. Well, we're aware of it. He was there at a cookout. So that's all over social media, and that's just a fact. We have the proof from Jeff Metcalf himself. So would that be a factor?
so you're saying
Like
a
some
juror?
like maybe witness tampering there, would that be like witness tampering or anything like that? That's what I want to know
So
specifically.
you're saying that a defense witness was at Jeff
Yes,
Metcalf's
he was
home
at his house. Yes.
during not during the
No,
trial.
not during the trial. It was right after the incident. This was in May of 2025. The incident happened April the 2nd, and May the 23rd of 2025, he was at Jeff Metcalf's house at a cookout, a barbecue.
Uh, I wouldn't know. Not depend. That would depend on what was said and what happened. If he were, I would
How
need
would we
more.
know what was said and what happened, though? That's the
That's why
question.
I'm saying you would need more information. Why he was there if he wasn't under. So if this happened immediately after the situation, the incident that happened, if he's not under a subpoena or witness a subpoena to testify at that point, I wouldn't
Hmm.
say that doesn't sound like witness tampering necessarily. But we would have to know what was said, if he were coerced in some way, That would be, I would
Well,
be
here's the thing. He was in
speculating.
court. He was definitely coerced. I don't know about then, but in court, several people have said, including one of the reporters for Law and Crime. No, no, I'm sorry, Court TV. I keep saying Law and Crime. And also, you guys, I have been saying that several times on here that the guy was from Law and Crime, but he's from Court TV. Now, so anyway, the guy from Court TV and another person that I know of, at least two other people, said that Jeff Metcalf was nodding his head or coaching him during the trial.
Okay. Well, look,
I wasn't there, but also they said another thing that was said is that same witness, when he was on the stand and they asked him, basically what happened, he said that Austin put Carmelo in some type of linebacker move. And then once he said that, they said the judge called a 5-minute recess. They went into the judge's chambers. And then like a couple of minutes later, the bailiff motioned for the witness to also come in there. They said when the witness came back, he looked like a child who didn't understand why they were in trouble. And then basically said he started saying, changing his wording. Now, instead of saying it was a linebacker move, now he simply says Austin touched him or Austin put his hands on him.
okay.
It seemed like he was trying to make it softer than what it was at first, according to the person that was in the court, because I wasn't there. This is all just me. This is hearsay.
Right, but here's the thing. That's where the defense attorney comes in and cross-examines them or challenges them on their testimony. So when you say, and I'm looking at people saying, about the guy that was there at Jeff Metcalf's home after the incident, at that time, I wasn't there. I haven't seen the videos, and I'll be happy to look at them. But it would depend on certain things before you say that he was witness tampering or anything. There would have to be some type of evidence that shows that, period. I can't go and speculate, just jump because of emotions or feelings. I need to see what the evidence is and what was said.
I understand all of that, but my point is,
I'm making it known to the. I'm talking.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about you, and I'm seeing people in the chat say that. So I have to see, like I said, what the proof and evidence of that is and what is alleged. Now, I think certainly I don't know that type of community, Frisco County. I heard that's a sundown area from what I was reading, one of the areas in Frisco County, Texas. Certainly, I don't know. It depends on certain things. Is it a small community? Hello?
I don't know. I don't know about the community. You said, is it a small one?
Well, the people
I don't know. I would
Right.
imagine it is. Let's go back to this video because I want to hear what else he's saying. Yeah, Marianne James, I agree. She said Gavin doesn't want to answer questions straightforward. It's like he's taking you through a maze. And I agree. I absolutely agree. But let's continue.
You were telling me you were inside the courtroom, quite obviously, after the verdict.
Not taking anything through a maze, but I'm not going to jump and say something if I don't know anything about it.
They weren't there for the sentencing, and they were not there for victim impact statements. They left that poor child up there by himself. As soon as the verdict was read, he was guilty. His family and some other advocates left the courtroom and turned in their badges.
Jeff, I was talking to you earlier. I asked about Austin's twin brother, Hunter. And I asked you, what has life been like for Hunter in school? Frisco Memorial has other Black students. What's the relationships been like at school? What has life been like for Hunter?
Well, I can't speak, for Hunter. I can only try to imagine. But he held his grades. He had straight A's this year. He was captain of the football team. Took over his brother's position. I honestly can't see anyone that has the strength or the mental fortitude as much as that young man does. I told him, matter of fact, right after the trial when he went up to give his victim impact statement that I saw a boy walk up there, but what I saw walk down was a man. He was calm, to the point, was able to articulate his words in a way that could be very understood very well. Asked Carmelo to look him in the eye to show him some respect, and never once became emotional and was able to convey what his thoughts were at that moment.
And you told me that multiple black students throughout Frisco High, Memorial High, also in the middle school. The entire community rallied around Hunter, rallied around your family, rallied around Austin.
Now, this is what I want to point out to you all. He's talking about, you said that numbers, the black students from the high school and middle school rallied around your family. Okay, yeah. Now, here's the thing that's interesting. Fox News is always saying negative things about the black community. The only time they bring up the black community is when it's something that they feel is going to directly benefit them. So now, to make it seem like black people are on their side, oh, they rallied around Hunter. Well, of course they did. Okay, they have to live there. Let's just keep it real. They have to live there. Okay, and that's the same thing goes for the jurors. All right, at the end of the day, the people that are speaking out against the things that happen, who don't agree with the narrative that's being put out, those people are receiving death threats. Okay, so at the end of the day, yeah, those children, of course, they're going to rally around Hunter, whether they agreed with how it all went down or not, because they have to live there and they have to go to school there, and it's a very racist place. Okay, so that's how I feel about that. Now, Gavin, the reason I said what I said is because here's the thing. We know that you weren't there. I wasn't there. Many of us weren't there. So all we can do is talk about speculation and whatever we've heard that's been reported or whatever. Now, I don't really care about the lamestream media, what they report, because the lamestream media has painted a narrative the entire time, okay, because I followed the trial. I followed the story when it first happened. That's why I know what the witnesses initially said and the statements they initially gave to detectives. And those things did not match what they testified to in court. It was obvious that they were coached. So my question, when I'm asking you questions, I'm not asking you these questions based on whether or not you know what actually went on in the courtroom, because I don't know what actually went on other than what people have said. I'm asking you based on if these things are true, then what would you say? You understand?
Okay,
like, I'm not trying to get you to say something about something you don't know. I'm asking you, like, if this is the scenario, then what do you think about this scenario? Not for you to say that it actually happened. That's all.
Okay, but the thing is, you asked me about or mentioned something about some videos about a witness that was there with Jeff Metcalf, and the point
Right.
is, to the viewers, I didn't see this video. I don't know exactly what you're
Well, it
referring.
wasn't a video. It was pictures that Jeff Metcalf himself posted on his social media. So there's no questions about that. That's not hearsay. That's a fact. Now, if you
Well,
need me to pull up the pictures, I can show them to you because I've already shown them on here. So
even
that's
if
what
you
I'm
pull
saying.
up,
That's something that's factual.
okay, but even if you pull up the pictures and you show this witness, I didn't see who this. I don't even know who this witness is necessarily. So
That's
let
why I'm
me
telling
just
you who it
Well,
is. Someone who
wait, let
testified.
me finish. I'm trying to explain. So, if there were I'm listening to people because I came here, I was talking about the appeal. So
Mhm.
I came on here and I said, and I don't know what people are upset about with me about. Frankly, I don't care because I
You
explained.
need to stop reading the chats.
No, but
That's
I'm
what you need
reading.
to stop. I'm not reading the
I'm
chat.
reading
You need
the
to start
comment.
reading the chat.
You were reading the chat
Focus on
earlier and
what your
said
talking points.
you were
You
reading
don't
the
worry about
chat
what the
earlier
chat's saying.
saying that. You were reading the chat earlier just saying that Gavin is
No,
trying
I'm
to go
looking for
through a
trolls for
maze.
the most part.
But you
I'm looking
said
for
you
trolls for
agreed
the
that
most part.
you said no, you said originally that I was leading people like a maze and so forth. I'm not. I
I
just
read
don't know
somebody's
enough about.
comment and agreed with them.
Okay. Well, it's wrong. I'm not leading anybody through anything. I'm not going to say
Okay,
anything.
okay.
Now, wait. Just let me. I'm almost done. Let me finish. I'm almost
No,
done.
take your time.
I'm
You
almost
go
done.
ahead.
If the guy came over, let's say the guy came over for a barbecue, like you said, if that did happen, it was immediately
Mhm.
after the incident. It wasn't during the trial, correct? So
Right.
if it wasn't anything during the trial, if he wasn't, I'm raccooning. Okay.
Gavin, stop reading the chats. That's distracting you. Like, no, you don't need to care what they're saying. People are going to agree or disagree. They do the same thing to me if they don't agree with what I'm saying. And so, but continue.
Yeah, whatever.
Continue.
It's whatever. So if people, it doesn't matter. I know who I am at the end of the day. No, I'm handling it. I'm reading because if people have questions or mentioning something, I like to actually bring it up in my points. That's why I'm looking at the chat. That doesn't bother me. Anyway, that was I was saying. If that were the case, if he actually happened before the trial, that's not necessarily tampering. It would be tampering, and I'm speaking from the defense from the perspective in Louis, and I'm not like I don't know what the law is in Texas, but typically, if somebody were doing something during the trial or before it, if there were evidence that were to say he bribed somebody, which we don't have, or anything like that, if they found that, then that would be a different issue. We don't, unfortunately, have that as of right now. I'm just dealing with what is an appealable issue here and what he's going to raise. He's going to obviously be able to raise the biggest thing is the Batson issue. I think he might have something on that. I've said that before. Same thing with possibly the, and his ineffective, possibly it could be ineffective assistance of counsel. It depends on what that appellate court in Texas is going to be.
Okay, now, did you know that they have sealed the evidence from the case?
Okay, what when you say they've sealed the evidence from the case, what specifically? The video tape has been released as well as...
not just that, they've sealed all the evidence from the sounds of it. I mean, I looked it up, said all the evidence is sealed. Yeah, the videotape is definitely not going to be shown. The AG, the state attorney general, said that themselves. They put in the order for that. So, but my thing is, if the evidence in the video would show that Carmelo did what they convicted him of, I don't understand why they wouldn't want to put that video out. Because then people wouldn't have all of these questions. Now, the videos that they put out are highly suspect because 2 clips in the videos that came out, right, specifically with the police officer's body cam, the dates are definitely altered. It has the dates on 2 of the clips for Officer E. Cortez. The dates are dated February the 10th of 2016. That's impossible. So that lets me know they doctored something. And then also you can tell in the video from under the tent, you can literally tell that it's edited because there's people that you see and all of a sudden that you just don't see them. And then Carmelo's under the tent and then all of a sudden he just pops up. Like, how did that happen so quickly? You can tell that it has been edited. Also, when it was put through AI, it said that there was unusual transitions several places in the video. I feel like the attorney, Mike Howard and Toby Shook, the defense attorneys, I feel like they should have had the original video footage. I don't know why they didn't have the original video footage that some people actually went to the school and saw in 2025. I don't know why they didn't have that. And then for the footage that they did have, I don't know why they didn't call in a forensic video expert who could attest to it to say if it was tampered with or not.
What happened to
that's just like...
What happened to the money that was raised?
For Carmelo, it was used for the attorney.
Yeah, but now it was over $700,000 that was there. They said it was 600,000 left, and they can't have access to it.
How much was left?
I saw it was $600,000 that was left, or something along.
Yeah, they refunded money from some of the crowdfunding. I don't know if that was it, but they did refund money. So you mean the lawyer got like $100 and some $1,000?
Well, I don't know what he got specifically, but
I don't know. I thought they used all of the money. To be honest with you, when they were saying money was refunded, I thought they were talking about the new crowdfunding. I don't know anything about any of that money being refunded. I thought all of that went towards the attorney and then bills and things that they had because the father lost his job because the wanton supremacist Jake Lang kept going up to his job, harassing him and making threats and all this kind of stuff. The same one who threatened to put a bullet in Carmelo's head that got arrested down there in Texas.
Yeah.
So that's what I assumed the money was spent on because that's what they said. And, the attorney did such a piss poor job, in my opinion, that some people actually thought he was a public defender. And that's what they kept saying, like, where did this money go? But no, he's a paid attorney.
And that's another insult. Let me just say this, especially let me address this about public defenders, because that's a misconception. There are public defense, that's an insult, public defense attorneys who are actually some of the finest lawyers in the United States. I've actually worked as one for 4 years. And yes, I have gotten acquittals. I have gotten cases dismissed, and so have other public defense attorneys that have done so. Why we get that reputation is because public defenders are often given a very large overload of cases, and that's because you have a lot of poor people in a country. You have a lot of people who can't afford attorneys that have thousands, that can afford an attorney on a $50,000 retainer, and there are attorneys who can charge that way. So yes, we get overload. Yes, we often get overloaded with a bunch of cases. There's also something called screening process that the prosecutor does. And the screening process comes from the state, where they look at the cases and they decide what should be charged and what should not. And so those cases often need to be looked at carefully. And sometimes they don't do a good job of that. I've had cases where I've had to represent an 88-year-old Korean War veteran on a domestic violence charge against his 85-year-old wife. And I thought it was stupid that they even brought it. But, hey, they bring those things and you do your best.
Yeah, I get it. But my thing is, I don't think it's meant to disparage public defenders. The point is, as you said, they have lots of cases. So when you have lots of cases, this is why some public defenders will try to get people to take deals so they don't have to go to court. That's just a fact. So that's why people say that. And also, we understand and know that they can't sift through all of the cases and give it 100% of their attention. So it's always going to be better to have a paid attorney when you have a murder trial. And I think that is what people were talking about. I don't think they were trying to say anything negative per se about public defenders.
That's not all.
There are some absolutely good public defenders, but if you have a huge workload, you cannot put as much emphasis and time on it as a paid attorney would, because if they're being paid all these tens of thousands of dollars, they're absolutely going to spend their time focused on that case specifically.
They have not true at all. They got private attorneys that will get paid all the money in the world and do a poor job. That actually,
that's what Mike Howard did. We know that too.
Well, I'm just making well, here's the thing. They were talking about, there were some people that were, when I commented about the sentencing phase, that thought Mike Howard was a public defender. He wasn't. Mike Howard is a private attorney. He may have worked as a public defender in his past.
He did work as a public defender before,
But look,
well, what I'm saying is, I get what you're saying, but I don't feel like everybody who says that is throwing jabs at public defenders. That's my point. I'm just saying that if they have a huge workload, that's a different story. That's all I'm saying. That's fine. But I understand not all of them are thinking that, but I wanted to people need to clear the air and understand. I get you.
Yeah, because there's a misconception and I've worked. Yeah. Go ahead.
But it is safe to say that if you have a huge workload, it would be difficult to put 100% into a murder case, right?
No.
You wouldn't think that would be difficult? Okay.
It depends on.
I've heard some public defenders say that.
It depends on the attorney and the caseload that they have. We also, every case is not equal. Some attorneys, you may have 1 or 2 murder trials. You got to remember this too. A lot of cases, most cases aren't going to trial. They're offering plea deals.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends. Yeah.
Okay. Now let's go back to this video.
What was happening actually on the ground and in your lives was so different than what was taking place in the national media, in the conversation, for example, on The View.
Don't get me started on left liberal who have Showtime. But anyway, the community and the school itself, obviously we dedicated the season to Austin, and there was a logo, motto, whatever you want to call it, it's called All In. A stood for Austin. The 2 1s were his number 11. I stand for integrity. N stands for never quit. And they dedicated the season to him, and that became the motto. And they also presented me and Megan with a framed jersey of Austin with his jersey number 11 that hangs above my fireplace as we speak. But as far as the makeup of the team, I mean, I'd say half the team are blacks. I mean, we don't see color, so all I see is character.
Hold on, let me stop right here. We don't see color. Sit down somewhere. After he said all these disparaging things about black people, and I want you all to pay attention. For somebody who didn't want to make it about race, why the hell are they sitting here telling us how many black students had Austin's back, rallied around Hunter? If y'all don't want to see color, why are y'all constantly talking about black people? It was this amount of black people on the team. The black people at the middle and the high schools, they're the ones making it about race, but they love to try to act like that's us. Like, I'm just so annoyed. Okay, let me just let him go on for a second. Okay, because here's what I want to talk about. Hold on. Let me let you all listen to this while I pull up my
response. I don't care what color you are. I want to judge you how you treat people. What's your character like? Your color makes no difference. It doesn't determine your IQ. It doesn't determine your faith. It doesn't determine how much money you have. But your character shows who you are truly. And that's how I judge people.
And you said, don't get me started on it, but to your point, a lot of big voices in the media have talked about this, said, I don't understand. I could play a clip for you, which I'm not going to, of Sonny Hostin on The View saying, I don't understand how this couldn't possibly be self-defense. So what is your judgment of all these people in the media that have spoken on the case?
Well, they're just like anybody else. They don't know me. They don't know Hunter, Austin. They don't know Carmelo. They're looking for their 15 minutes of fame or their clickbait or their clicks. They're looking to monetize the death of my son. I really wish they wouldn't speak about it at all. Because one, if that woman said that, she has no idea about the facts of the case, but she wants to spew her public opinion on a platform that reaches millions of people every day. Do I have that platform? No, but today I have a little platform to say what I'd like. She is completely wrong. And if they want to take me and call me and ask me to be on The View with them, I would gladly fly me up there and let me talk to all of you.
Well, I can promise you more people are watching you right now than watch The View.
It's not hard to believe.
Last thing, Jeff, you said they don't know your son. What would you like the world to know about Austin Metcalf?
Man, I don't think we have enough time. But, I mean, Austin, I'll try to sum it up. He was a leader. He was a God-fearing son. He had compassion. He showed love. He always helped, always was helping his teammates, always helping the younger kids from middle school who was transitioning to high school football. He would go and talk to them and tell them what to expect. He would coach them in the weight room. He was a leader. When he stepped on that field, he became someone totally different. And he played, I told him once before, I said, son, you play with such controlled rage. And it shows. And for him to have all the accolades and the thing and where he was going, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind he was playing D1 football. But, let's just go a step forward. Maybe there's that 1% chance he does get to the NFL. I may be biased because he's my son, but he had the numbers, the stats, and the size. So the possibility does exist. I don't know about the probability, but the possibility surely existed.
Well, I'm sorry for all that you and your family have been through, and you and I have spoken, and I know you're continuing to go through it. I know you're getting a lot that is completely undeserved and unfortunate out there. So you continue to, but I appreciate you sharing with us, and with the world about Austin.
Well, that's one thing, all in, and this is one of the things that people understand that we did all the time was this, and this is sign language for I love you. If you ever see my boys or whatever. That was kind of like, their thing to tell me, hey.
All right, enough of that. Okay, I think I've heard enough. Now, with that all being said, let's talk about something interesting. Okay, so with that being said, let's talk about the grounds for appeal. Let's talk about the grounds for appeal. So first of all, like Gavin said, the jury selection, okay, the Batson challenges. Okay, so the most prominent issue stems from the fact that the final jury was entirely non-Black, despite Collin County having a 10 to 12% Black population. Okay, now the issue is prosecutors used their final preemptory strikes to remove the only 3 remaining eligible Black prospective jurors from the pool. And the rationale was they argued that these jurors were removed because they were educators and the incident occurred at a high school track meet. Now, as far as the appellate ground, the defense is expected to argue that this rationale was a pretext for racial discrimination. They will likely leverage a Batson challenge, which claims the state violated Anthony's 14th Amendment right to a trial by a jury of his peers. Second, the judge's jury instructions on self-defense. Now, Anthony maintained throughout the trial that he acted in self-defense. This is just research that I dug up. Okay. So anyway, okay, jury instructions on self-defense. Now, Anthony maintained throughout the trial that he acted in self-defense after being pushed by Austin Metcalf. Okay, so the appellate ground, okay, so the appellate brief will heavily scrutinize the exact wording of the jury instructions regarding the right to defend oneself. Okay, attorneys will look at whether the judge properly instructed the jury on Texas self-defense standards and the duty to retreat concept. Now, if the instructions confuse the jury or misstated the law, it constitutes a reversal legal error. And also, don't forget what I told you all, beloveds, about the multiple assailants, okay, the Texas doctrine for multiple assailants, because I'm sorry, but according to that alone, Carmelo should not have ever been found guilty of murder, because that law says, for those of you who missed the broadcast where I've spoken on it, if you have okay, y'all are going in talking about leader of chaos. So if you have multiple assailants, and that would be 3 or more people, and they confront you, and one of them puts their hands on you, and the other 3 are there with that person, you do not have to wait for all of them to put hands on you. It only takes the one. And then you can act in a way to defend yourself, and even if that includes deadly force. Now, here's another thing that I find interesting. Gavin, tell me your thoughts. So I also feel like they should have brought a self-defense expert. They could have brought in someone to basically to talk about his state of mind. And I think, you talked about that the last time you were on. But what about the fact that it was a rainy, wet day? They were on bleachers. Okay, they could have brought in someone to say that there is a reasonable expectation for Carmelo to feel a threat to his body or to his life, because hey, he could have gotten, if he was punched in the face and jumped or pushed or shoved hard enough, he could have fallen down the bleachers. Who knows? What would you say about that sort of argument? Had the defense used that? And I don't believe that they did, but I'm just curious.
Well, that's something that the defense, well, again, a second guessing the attorney. Defense attorney could have very well have done that. You could have raised, the situation, especially if there was a fight that was going on. These are kids, Austin Metcalf, I believe, is about 5 inches taller than Carmelo.
He was 6'1", 213 pounds, according to the autopsy report.
Is 6'1", and I don't know how tall. Carmelo's a little bit shorter.
Carmelo's 5'9". He weighed 130 pounds.
So I mean, you could have certainly raised that argument. Especially I'm hearing it wasn't just a shove. This was actually what I've read from what was coming out was that he actually was lifted up off the ground in like a football move.
Exactly.
Now, yes, that's something that the defense actually could have raised in there. I don't know what the defense attorney was doing. I think he was in particular, but yeah, I have seen situations where I've raised that. Not just that is, I've seen defense attorneys that have raised that. Another thing too, and I don't know if this was coming out in some self-defense cases. There's even stuff called battered spouse syndrome, where I've had cases where if you have a spouse who's been in an abusive relationship with the other spouse, and several months later or so, she's had enough and sends that other spouse to the shadow realm. Well, guess what? In a lot of states, they look at that and see if there's some type of history there.
Right,
You know,
right. Yeah, I get
and
that, but that's not applicable to this case. Let's just stick to this case, Gavin. Okay. Now let's stay on topic.
but
Let's go to
let
the
me
next
ask you
one.
something. Wasn't it true that, well, I don't know if this was true, but purportedly there were people that were trying to say that they knew each other. That wasn't the case.
Yeah, they didn't know each other. There was no pattern of history. No, they didn't know each other.
All right.
They didn't. I don't see why that would have made a difference anyway, unless they wanted to prove that there was a pattern of bullying or whatever. But yeah, they didn't know each other, according to the testimony. Okay, so goes on to say the appellate brief will heavily scrutinize the exact wording of the jury instructions regarding the right to defend oneself. Attorneys will look at whether the judge properly instructed the jury on Texas self-defense standards and the duty to retreat concept. Okay, now rejection of the sudden, this is the third point, rejection of the sudden passion mitigation. So during the sentencing phase, the original defense team tried to argue sudden passion. Now, they had not mentioned that previously. It was only when the sentencing phase came about that they mentioned this. They asserted that Attny acted out of immediate blinding terror, which legally would have capped his maximum sentence at 20 years. Now, for the appellate, the grounds of this will be the jury rejected this argument, leading to the 35-year sentence. The new team will look closely at whether the prosecution used improper closing arguments that unfairly inflamed the jury's emotions, legally prejudicing them against mitigating the sentence. The fourth thing is evidentiary rulings. Now, the Collin County judge recently unsealed a large volume of evidence, including body cam footage, surveillance video, and 911 calls. The appellate ground would be the team will evaluate if the trial judge made errors in what evidence was allowed or excluded. Well, definitely it was an error for him not to demand that they show the actual video. Specifically, they will review whether the jury was allowed to see highly prejudicial material or if crucial evidence supporting Attny's state of fear during the confrontation was blocked from the courtroom. And if so, I think that absolutely are all things that should have been addressed, and it wasn't. Also, I would have appreciated if the attorney had brought up some previous cases that were similar to this case. For example, I took the liberty of looking up some myself, okay? But Mike Howard didn't do that, and he was paid to do so, which I find interesting, okay? Now, one of them that I'll bring up, and here's the thing that I want to let people know also. You know, a lot of people that don't look like me are online saying, oh, he's guilty. He said I did it. He said I'm not alleged I did it. This was not about really guilt or innocence. We know he did it. He said he did it. And that's obvious. It was about whether or not it was self-defense, whether he did it intentionally, okay, without, whether he planned it or whether he actually acted in self-defense. This was a punishment case, basically. Okay, so with that all being said, I don't think that was ever a question for the people that are saying that. Now, one of the cases that I looked up was the case of Harold Fish. Okay, this case gets discussed very often because it highlights an important appellate principle. A conviction can be overturned even when the defendant unquestionably caused the death. Okay, I want you all to pay attention. This is the main type of case I was looking for. So the issue on appeal is not often did he do it. Okay, for the people in the back that keep saying, oh, he did it, it's over with, just leave it alone. No, I'm not going to leave it alone. Okay, but here's the thing. It's not about whether or not he did it, but rather, did the jury get to fairly consider the self-defense claim under the correct legal standards? Okay, for self-defense cases, some of the most common reasons that convictions are overturned and reversed would be, number one, improper self-defense jury instructions. And I'm banking money on it that happened. Okay, I'm willing to put money on it. Excluding evidence of the victim's prior violent conduct. That's a fact because the cheerleaders said that Austin and Hunter had rages. that they were bullies, basically, that they were concerned about them doing something to them. And they sent letters to the coaches and they said, do not add our names because we fear what they'll do if they find out. So that shows people were afraid of them. And that's because they were bullies. There were people who testified that said they previously stated that they were intimidated by them. Okay, now here's the next, and this also is relevant as well for the appeals process: prosecutorial misconduct. I absolutely think that was a factor. I know Gavin says he doesn't want to second guess the lawyers, but I'm absolutely going to second guess them. If we're not going to second guess them, why are we having an appeal? Brady violations, withholding favorable evidence. I absolutely believe so. The video would be one. Okay. Ineffective assistance of counsel, absolutely. Improper admission or exclusion of expert testimony, absolutely. There was no expert testimony, and this is why the Fish case, okay, got overturned. Okay, so that all being said, that's all he had to do. That's all his attorney, I mean, that's not all he had to do, but I'm just saying that's one of the things his attorney could have done, was looked up prior cases. Now, I looked up several cases. This is just one of the few that I looked up. Okay, now, like I said, Gavin is politically correct, and I'm just not.
No, wait, stop.
That's the difference.
Wait.
That's all it is.
No, wait, hold up. It's not about being politically correct or anything like that. I came on here.
Well, I'm not going in. I'm just trying to say that's why you answer things a certain way.
Wait, I'm answering things a certain way because if I don't know something, I'm not going to jump and say something that I don't know about that's either false or incorrect. That's why it's not about being politically correct. I said that the kid has chances for an appeal. And apparently some people on your chat and so forth gone as far as calling me, and I got a white, talking about my family, like I have a white wife.
Gavin,
no, I'm not going to be
hold on, because now I got to edit the video because you just said the C word. Okay, so let me write down the timestamp. That's for number one. I asked you not to be distracted by the chat. Now you're getting emotional, obviously, because I wouldn't really care what the chat's saying. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Everybody's going to not agree with us.
And that's fine. I don't have a problem with that or anything like that. But
you do, because you keep mentioning what they're saying.
But you're saying something false that I didn't say, that I'm being politically correct. It's not about that. That's not true.
Okay.
And it's not.
Well, I was just trying to help you out by saying that clearly. I'm just saying, well, maybe I used the wrong wording. What I'm trying to say, hold on. What I was trying to say is that because you're an attorney, you're looking at it more objectively than we would, because we're not attorneys. So that's what I'm trying to say. I was trying to, so they would give you grace. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, no, judging by the chat, I don't need their grace. I don't care. I know who I am at the end of the day.
So can we stop talking about what's in the chat then?
No.
Well, let's not talk about what the chat is saying. If you don't need it, if you're not worried about what they're saying.
No, but I want to clarify. I came on here. I came on here. I asked to come on. I've actually been on longer than the time that I was going to be here, giving the advice that I've seen and so forth. Nobody's paid me anything or anything like that. I'm not on Austin's side. I'm not even on Mello's side. I'm for what's fair. I said that the kid wasn't treated fairly.
Kevin, you already told us all of that. You said you're not worried about the chat, but here you are explaining yourself to the chat. Now, I don't want to waste time on this. Let's continue. So with that all being said, let's talk about another case that I looked up. Now, like I told you, there's several. This one is about Michael Dunn. Okay, this is a very notable example. Now, Dunn shot and killed teenager Jordan Davis. You all remember that? Because I do, because he said he was playing his music too loud. This was in 2012. Okay, so Dunn claimed that he acted in self-defense because he believed Davis had a weapon. Now, he was convicted of first-degree murder, but on appeal, one of his convictions related to firing into the occupied vehicle was reversed due to jury instruction issues, although the murder conviction itself remained intact, okay, because it was just one of his charges, okay? And then the next one is John Giuca. Now, he was convicted of murder and sentenced to prison. His conviction was later vacated after appellate courts found serious issues involving witness reliability and prosecutorial misconduct. Okay, although it was not a classic case of self-defense, it demonstrates how a murder conviction can be overturned when the trial process is found defective. Okay, so those are just a few, like I said, that I looked up. Now, with that being said, someone asked me if I had that audio where they said Austin tried to make a move. Yeah, I do have that, so I'm going to go ahead and play that now. You can hear it faintly, but I'm not sure what that means, though. I'm not sure what the caller or the person in the background meant when they said Austin tried to make a move. I'm not quite sure what they meant by that, but I'll play the audio nonetheless.
Frisco 911, what is the location of the emergency?
Hi, we're at Kuykendall Stadium. My friend just got stabbed.
Okay, do you know who stabbed him?
We have no clue. He was sitting in our tent, but you need to send an ambulance right now.
They're on the way, okay? Give me a description of the person that stabbed him.
He was wearing a gray Essentials hoodie. He was black. He's standing out on the track right now.
He's standing on the track?
Yeah.
Okay.
His blue sweatpants on and gone.
Okay, what did he stab your friend with?
I don't know. My friend's bleeding everywhere.
Okay. Where was he stabbed at?
The chest.
Okay. And do you still see the person that stabbed him, or did he leave?
It was Austin. Austin got stabbed in the chest. I'm sorry, what did you say?
The person that stabbed him, is he still there? Do you still see him?
There's adults on him, I think. Yeah.
There's adults that are trying to keep him there?
Who he is. Sorry, what?
The person that stabbed your friend, is he still there?
Yeah, he's still here.
Okay, and
He's with the coach.
There's a coach with him?
Yes, he's with. People got him.
Okay. Do you know if he still has the weapon on him?
No clue, but he's like he can't do nothing. He's done.
What do you mean?
He stabbed Austin Metcalf in the chest. What?
What do you mean he can't do anything? What's going on with him?
Coaches have him. He can't hurt anyone.
Okay, when you say they have him, are they physically holding him down?
No, they're just holding him, walking around.
Okay.
Okay.
And do you see any of the responders there yet?
We hear the sirens, but
the
coaches sent us out. We're all walking to our buses.
Okay, so you're going to get on a bus right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the rest of the students are walking towards the buses?
Yeah, everyone's being evacuated out the stadium.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being quick.
Okay. Just follow whatever directions you're being provided by either the officers or by your coaches, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect with you, Nathan, but we've got all kinds of help headed that way.
Okay, did you all hear the person in the background say he made a move? Once in the chat, if you all heard that. Once in the chat, if you all heard the person in the back say Austin tried to make a move. What move did he make? I'm just curious. If you all didn't hear it, hold on. Somebody sent me just that clip. They singled out that clip. Hold on. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Okay, you all heard. Okay, so I don't have to pull it up then. Great. You all heard it. Okay, now they said he tried to make a move. I'm not sure what they meant by that, but clearly he was doing something. Now, also, Gavin, we saw when we zoomed in on the footage that they have released, my glasses seem foggy, but we saw on the footage, right, that someone, as soon as Carmelo Anthony was running down the stairs, someone else was running down the stairs behind him, and they ran over to a trash can, put something in the trash can, then ran away. Then later, they came back to the trash can. The trash can had fallen over, I guess, from all of the ruckus and people. Someone obviously knocked it over, but it shows them come back, stand the trash can up when they think nobody's really paying attention, and they dug in the trash can for whatever they threw in there, I guess, put it in their pocket and walked back over by the bleachers. And then minutes later, they took off running and fled the scene. So I just have several questions because there's a lot of things that are just, you know, I mean, that are just coming out now because we're seeing some of the footage, even though it's doctored. And also, another thing is by the fact that the footage has the wrong dates on it, which clearly shows that it had to be altered or doctored in some way. That would only be done, in my opinion, if they had something to hide. If it was just cut and dry like they want us to think, then why would they need to alter any footage? Why would they not want to release the whole video? You know, why were there no cameras allowed in the courtroom? Now, we know that they don't allow cameras in federal courts, but this was state court. Why was there no cameras allowed?
Some courts.
I just have these are just questions. I'm not asking you. I'm just saying these are questions I have. I mean, you can give me your thoughts on it, but that's just things that I would like to know.
Judges can do that. They can actually, in state courts, they can forbid the use of recording devices and so forth. Or even
we know he can because he clearly did.
I'm
just wondering why.
Well, I mean, why he did that, I don't. Roach. I know. Maybe his thinking, if he didn't want to record it or have cameras in there, probably he didn't want anything to unduly influence the jury. Judges can do that. Sometimes that would happen. I think would it have been better to actually have had the cameras in the courtroom? Everybody could have seen everything. Yeah, I think that now stuff is coming out. And yes, I did see where someone reported the video that they showed from across the field was chopped up, supposedly, reportedly. I saw that on X, which I think that would be problematic. But again, what witnesses were called for the defense on that? Did they actually, how did they authenticate that video? Who testified to the authenticity of it? Because when we get video cameras, of course, the state, if the prosecution wants to introduce a piece of footage from anyone, whether it's the police, for instance, a police officer, their body camera footage, they have to actually ask them questions and authenticate that.
And that's my whole point. He didn't have a forensic person coming there. He should have. That's why I think he did a piss poor job. I will second guess him all day because those are things that absolutely should have been done. Now I want to go to what this lawyer had to say. And someone said this is George Zimmerman's lawyer. I'm not sure.
That is him.
That's him?
Yeah, that's Mark. Forgot his last name.
Okay, let's hear what he's talking about.
And I disagree with the guy who said this is not a self-defense case. Yes, I think he said it. This is definitely a self-defense case because it always is one until you look at the facts of the case and compare the two. You have to compare who was the initial aggressor. Was it an aggressive act for him to go up and say, get away from the tent? Did he do more than that? My understanding was maybe he touched him and put hands on him. Granted, that makes the decedent in this case maybe the initial aggressor. But you really still then have to look at whether or not Carmelo Anthony responded with appropriate force, he used a deadly weapon, and whether or not he was in imminent fear of great bodily injury. That's the standard in Texas and most every state to determine whether or not his actions, the way he perceived them, the way Carmelo Anthony perceived him when he took out that knife and stabbed him. The good part is if the decedent was the aggressor initially. The bad part for Carmelo, if in fact it's true that he sort of said, touch me and you'll see, because that's that aggression, that's that predisposition towards violence that doesn't have a place in a true self-defense case.
You're muted.
Thank you, Gavin. Okay, so that's his thoughts on that. So he seems to think that if Carmelo said, touch me and see what happens, that's kind of being like a provocateur. I wonder how he thinks that, but George Zimmerman following Trayvon was him acting as provocateur to me. That's just my opinion. Now, but here's the thing. There's discrepancy. Did Carmelo actually use those words? Because some people say that Carmelo actually said, as long as you don't touch me, we're cool.
Right.
Okay, that's what some people claim that he said. So I don't know which that he said.
Well, here's the thing: when you say "touch me" and when you say that, that's not. I don't take that as a defense attorney as a threat. I take it as someone defending themselves. If somebody were to say, what they're basically saying is, "Don't touch me. If you touch me, I'm going to defend myself." That's the way
Right.
that when I heard it, I initially interpreted that. And they used
Right.
that against Carmelo to try to say he had some type of predisposition in the case. But,
Mm-hmm.
And again, of course, I don't see the record, but I don't know if that was objected to. One of the worst things was when they asked the witness whether it was self-defense or murder, which the lawyer should have objected in that instance if that were the case, because that's not a question for a witness to decide. That's for the jury.
Exactly.
Jury
Even I know that. I'm not a lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was real crazy. That was the main thing.
So yeah. So all of that is, with that being said, all of that's coming in. The jurors are hearing this stuff, and no opposition to it. That's the problem.
Right.
But it's
right now, like, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Okay, so Robert says Carmelo was from Baton Rouge and we speak a certain way. Well, to me, Black people in general speak differently from them. And that's why I always say perception is reality. Now, if I say, because I told you all in the beginning, beloveds, that when we first heard the report that Carmelo said, touch me and see what happens, I said, if he said that, then that means that someone threatened to touch him. Because we don't just say that out of the blue. To me, that's a warning. That's not a threat. I'm letting you know, don't put your hands on me. Okay, don't ever run and find out. So, and at the end of the day, whether they thought it was provocative or not, bottom line is don't put your hands on no damn body, because you don't get to dictate how that person responds. Okay. And for all the people who don't look like me who want to say, oh, well, you can't kill somebody, this, that, and the third. Well, he didn't mean to kill him. That's obvious. And that's another reason why it should not have been deemed as murder. Like, that's just so crazy. It's getting overturned on the appeal. I'm just positive. I'm just pretty sure of it, because all of this was a whole load of BS. Now, that's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. Okay, and let me just tell y'all something, Chad. Y'all gonna quit being disrespectful to Gavin, okay? Because anybody put some more slick stuff in here, I'm putting you in timeout. Just so you know, if you don't agree with the guest, you just don't agree. But no smart comments, snide remarks. And now, so with that all being said, hold on, what is this right here? I want to go to the thing with Sunny to see exactly what she said. I think this is the clip here. I think this might be the clip here. I'm going to share my screen.
Was please don't make this about race, and please don't politicize it. But they chose to do both.
And your goal that day was to simply get together and pray?
All I wanted.
So we are on part 2 of the Carmelo Anthony trial. New legal team files substitution of counsel to pursue appeal for Carmelo Anthony. So you can see that Austin Metcalf's father, Jeff Metcalf, he's cleaning up his act now. He's going on his little interview tour, trying to, clean up his image after what he already said on video. So that can be used against him. This time, this is the lineup for Carmelo Anthony. This is his lawyer team. This time he's stacked with lawyers who will at least give him a fighting chance for his life. So the video that was leaked of Carmelo Anthony shows that there was an altercation, shows that there was a scuffle, shows that there was self-defense. It wasn't just a simple little tap or a simple little push. But y'all need to stop acting like y'all care about violence amongst teenagers. When we got these school shooters, y'all never say one thing about them. When these kids bring guns to protests and take the lives of people, y'all never say anything. When these people take the lives of children in schools, y'all never say anything. I'm glad there are people actually standing up for this kid and at least trying to give him a fighting chance for his life, because y'all saying that this will all be avoided if he didn't bring a knife to school. This could all been avoided if somebody kept their hands to themselves. If somebody didn't insert themselves into a situation and kept their hands to herself, because even if there wasn't a knife, right? You know what would have happened? They would have whooped his ass. A gang of boys would have beat the crap out of him. That's what would have happened.
That's right. And it could have been even worse than just a simple beating. Okay, as far as I'm concerned. Now, and here's the thing too. Hold on, we're gonna go to this next video because some people are absolutely going in on Jeff Metcalf. Okay, and I'm here for it because he is trying to clean up his image. Don't think we forgot all of the racist, hateful things he said. I feel like he came out and did that interview because now he knows that Carmelo has some hot top-notch attorneys, and he knows that the racist rants that he went in on, he knows that could possibly be used against him, okay, when they file for the appeals, in the appeals process. Okay, so now he's wanting to change his tune. Oh, I was trying to pray with them. Okay, yeah, now I don't think you were really trying to pray with them. I think you were trying to pray on them. And then he talks about people making money and monetizing off of his son's death. Well, that's what he's doing. Because why in the hell does he still need a GoFundMe? Okay, and bragging about taking a tour of Europe and getting a new truck. Let's talk about it, because that's what they don't talk about. They want to talk about what Carmelo's family did. They want to pocket watch them, but they're not pocket watching Jeff Metcalf. Why does he need a GoFundMe? Okay, why does Megan Metcalf need one?
They took it from any type of remorse, which they did not show, to the fact of now we're going to play the race card, and now we're going to politicize it. Now we're getting a political activist involved. The two things I said, one of the first I was hoping we could show the world this interviews I ever did was please don't make it about race and please don't politicize it. But they chose to do both.
And your goal that day was to simply get together and pray?
All I wanted, yeah.
And why do white folks always ask not to make it about race? Set the scenario. Your twin boys who are 200 pounds and over 6 feet tall decides to walk over to Carmelo Anthony, 130 pounds and under 6 feet, surrounded by nothing but white people, and try to bully him from under a tent. Now let's switch it. Let's put Hostin Metcalf in Carmelo Anthony's position. Carmelo Anthony walks over with 4 boys and his brother. They're both 200 pounds and over 6 feet. And Hostin Metcalf is 130 pounds. Your ass would have sat there and made it about race. Only time white folks don't want to deal with race is when they know they're in the wrong. And you shaking right now because there's a new legal team standing behind Carmelo Anthony. That judge abruptly retires. There was an all-white jury, no jury of his peers whatsoever. The 2 or 3 black jurors were pushed off because they were teachers. You sat there on live stream and you made fun of Carmelo Anthony, calling him a watermelon felon, talking about other black men having jobs and being supportive fathers. That must be a shocker to our community. And now you on Fox News. Let me put it to you like this. If 3x5 cars didn't want to make everything about race, they should have left our asses in fucking Africa.
Okay, facts. And here's another thing. They say that they don't want to make it about race, but they have done everything they could, Sarah Fields specifically, getting her minions to go around and have them try to shut down the crowdfunding sites for Melo. But at the end of the day, these are the same people who donated money to Daniel Penny, okay, Derek Chauvin, Kyle Rittenhouse, and yes, I said Rittenhouse, and George Zimmerman, people like that. Okay, and they did that because those people are white, and they want to say, "Oh, y'all are defending murderers, a murderer." What the hell do y'all defend? They praise their murderers. They make movies about them. Okay, that's what they do. They praise them. At the end of the day, they can't sit here and tell me there's no privilege.
Well, they've given money to all of these people that have been charged with something. So I don't see what the problem was with Carmelo getting money. If you do it for one by precedent, you got to do it for the other person that gets accused.
Exactly.
So, yeah. And I mean, they even had something, the brother that was shot in Georgia, Arbery, I believe, the father.
Arbery.
Yes, well, the father and son and the neighbor in there, I believe they had, and correct me if I'm wrong, they had a GoFundMe that was for them.
Yes, of course they did. They always donate lots of money to their thugs. And at the end of the day, even the white lady that called the 5-year-old autistic child the N-word, they donated almost a $500,000 to her at least. Okay, so I'm just saying, my point of bringing that up is to say that the main people sitting there talking about, let's not make it about race. You made it about race from day one. If Hostin had been black, this wouldn't have been in the news. If Carmelo had been white and Hostin was still white, this wouldn't have been in the news. However, if Hostin had been the one that weighed 130 pounds and was 5'9", like she said, and 4 big black dudes, okay, with Carmelo, walked over and started harassing and pressing him, saying, get out from under here. Everybody that's talking trash would have had a whole nother song to sing. They would have been like, oh, y'all didn't want to help him. He was just trying to get out from under the rain. Just like the Devils even said that they said that that it wasn't even raining that day. But then when we see the footage, Carmelo's hoodie has raindrops all over it. It's wet. So it was raining. Like, what are they talking about? They try to paint false narratives, and then they get mad when we come out with the truth, or we start to paint our own narrative based off of the evidence and things that we have seen. And I'm sorry, but the fact that Fox 4 allegedly took down a whole broadcast shows that they were definitely trying to paint a narrative, if that's true, and I believe that it is, because people from Frisco and Dallas have said the same thing. Okay, and the people who saw the original video at the school said that he got jumped. Why wasn't that video brought into evidence in the courtroom? It wasn't. So clearly they had something to hide. And why would they be hiding anything? Well, that's because it's all about race. Because they wouldn't have gone through all of this trouble if it was a white person who took Austin's life under the same circumstances. This would not even have been a thing. There would not even have been an arrest. Okay, and let's not forget also that not only did Hunter say that allegedly on that Fox 4 broadcast that was taken down, not only is he alleged to have said that it was the knife that he and Austin used to put up the tent, but also the knife was not submitted as evidence. Now, it was introduced as exhibit number 34, but they never presented it further in the trial. And now we're finding out that it has an M supposedly engraved on it. And whose last name starts with an M? Hunter Metcalf and Austin Metcalf. Okay, so I'm sorry, but there's too many holes in their stories. There's too many shady things that have gone on, and there's too much proof and evidence that the defense attorney didn't do their job. They didn't. They didn't call for objections. Nobody has ever heard in the history of being in a courtroom, if you're a good defense attorney, nobody thinks they're going to go in there on a murder case, one of the most serious cases you can deal with, and you're not going to raise objections, especially when they're questioning teenagers and asking them to decide whether or not it was self-defense or murder. Why don't you just call in a legal expert to come up with that conclusion? Why don't you call in someone to talk to and speak to Carmelo Anthony's mindset? Okay, I have questions.
Expert, yeah.
Yeah, I have questions. So that, and I don't think for 1 minute that the jury was given accurate instructions. I don't. I said that from day one. I said, I wish I could see the jury instructions. Now, someone said that was somewhere online. I'm going to look for it later. But someone told me a little while ago before I started this broadcast that is online. So I'm going to look for it. So any more thoughts, Gavin, beloved?
Well, again, like a use of force expert would have to come in and testify. If you remember what happened. So here's the thing. What happened with George Zimmerman, I believe they had called the defense attorneys for him. They had actually called a use of force expert, but they also called a doctor. I believe it was Dr. DeMaio was the name of the doctor that testified on Zimmerman's behalf and tried to show about the self-defense wounds that he did. So the point that I'm making with it, an attorney would definitely have to hire, or should, in a case like that, if you're alleging self-defense, and as I would have tried to hire some type of expert that could show, hey, a use of force expert that would show you have this 5'9" teenager versus a 6 or 5'8". I'm sorry, I mischaracterizing. Carmelo Anthony is 5'8", let's just say roughly, and Austin Metcalf is 6'1". Well, if you're alleging self-defense, you're trying to show, obviously, could somebody who's shorter than the alleged victim, the supposed victim, obviously feared for their person, and also, not just the use of force expert, but certainly I would have prepared Carmelo to testify. In my opinion, I think it would have been a good decision to have him testify, because at this point, remember, there's no plea deals that are coming in. So if there's no plea deals that are being made, I don't think he had much to lose, because you want the jury, if you're alleging self-defense, to show that he believed, that had reasonable belief that he was in imminent danger of losing either his life or great bodily harm. Now, I certainly think if another key thing is what? Having the right jury members that were there also to listen to him, because all you need is one juror essentially to be on your side. I'm sorry. I think you're muted, Queen.
Okay, thanks.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. So by the fact, now here's what I was told. And I can't substantiate this, but I was told that Carmelo did want to go up there and speak, especially after he heard how the kids were just saying things that didn't happen or lying on him, basically, and that his attorney allegedly told him that wasn't a good idea.
And maybe the defense attorney
So,
didn't want him to get eaten up on cross, because that's something you got to consider. Remember, once you take the witness stand, there's no Fifth Amendment protection. You have to answer the questions truthfully.
Yeah,
But
I get that. I know that. But at the end of the day, I think he just didn't want him to get up there and talk. That's my opinion. At the end of the day, we already know the risk of you getting grilled by the prosecution. But at this type of case, like you said, there was no plea deals offered. So he didn't have anything to lose. You're charged with murder.
right.
So
Now,
I'm sorry, but most people testify when they have a self-defense claim.
they do in most cases. Now, here's another thing, though, too. Had they heard him testify, and just playing devil's advocate as well, if you're facing, remember, it's 5 to 99 years on a first degree charge, right? So they could have actually gone further up with this, even on this appeal. If it gets granted and he gets retried again, that is a possibility. But my thinking, and it's something that might help them, yes, you prep your client. You also have to prepare them for, obviously prepare them for any questions, prepare all your witnesses in case, and make sure you get all your T's crossed and your I's dotted. But something else I was going to mention with that is that if, let's say down the line, appeals can take a long time. They're not granted overnight.
Right.
They take time. And what may happen eventually, let's say it does get remanded and it gets, the verdict is overturned, they may come with a plea offer this time.
Right.
So those are things that consider. The attorney in the neighboring case with the young Hispanic kid that was killed by the white boy, and they were actually gave him, I think, a negligent homicide charge and got 10 years.
Yeah. Now let me speak on that real quick. Oh, go ahead.
Well, he had an attorney that actually, from what I saw and what I read,
you're talking about Cason Allison?
I'm sorry.
You're talking about Cason Allison?
Cason Allison is the case. Yeah, his attorney actually did a fantastic job.
Well, clearly, okay, because he did negligent, criminally negligent homicide. Well, hold on for a second. Let me shout out Tough News TV. Says, "Let's go, Queen. Love you," and I love you too, beloved. You're doing good work. Now, you all be sure to follow his channel, okay? Tough News. Now, with that all being said, here's the thing. Cason Allison, his case was definitely murder, in my opinion. It was premeditated. He left the school, went home and got a knife, came back. And also, hold on, I forgot this part. He Googled, like, which parts of the body, where can you stab someone to make sure they die? So he went to school with this information, with a knife. And then, people are trying to take up for him. The same people, mind you, because I was on a TikTok live days ago on a panel, and the same people who were trying to defend Cason Allison were going in on Carmelo, saying that it wasn't self-defense, and they said Carmelo's case is worse. And I'm like, how's his worse? Because y'all keep asking, why did he bring a knife to a track meet? My question is, why did Cason bring a knife to the school? They didn't want to answer that question. And then they started saying, oh, but he was scared. It had been a history of bullying between him and the guy. I said, okay, that's fair. But when he left the school to go get that knife, why didn't he just keep his behind at home? Why didn't he call the police? Why didn't he call the school and report it? Rather than coming back with a knife, he could have done a myriad of things, but they constantly made up excuses. And then they said, well, he had a knot on his head and all of this when he got into the fight. They tried to lie and say that Ramirez, I think the guy's name was Joe Ramirez, said that he and his friend locked him in the restroom. That's not true, because it already was established during his trial that the door was broken, so nobody locked it. I'm just saying, it's so funny to me how the same people who say it's not about race, it's always about race with them, because when the same scenario, the same set of circumstances happen, or similar circumstances happen to people who look like them, that person's innocent. But then a black person can come and do almost the same exact thing, and that person's guilty. So they could miss us with it when they're talking about it's not about race, and don't make it about race. Don't politicize it and all of that. Okay, it's just a whole load of BS as far as I'm concerned, and quite frankly, exhausting. And also, one more thing, Gavin, do you think that the cheerleaders who said that Austin and Hunter were basically bullying them, don't you think that evidence should have been presented in court to show a history, a pattern of them being bullies, in fact?
Well, yeah, you can't now. Again, I'm not, and this is another reason why I've been cautious, if you think that, Queen, because I'm not licensed in Texas, so I don't want to mistake and be accused of giving the wrong law. But in courts like in Louisiana, yes, you can bring up the history of a victim in a self-defense case. That actually can happen. You can bring up you can bring up prior bad acts that they've done if they're prone to violence. Of course, what a judge is going to have to weigh when they make a decision is the probative value versus the prejudicial, the prejudicial
cumulative, the probative value versus the cumulative value, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have to look at that.
So I think that absolutely should have been admitted in. Now, OG Patrice says, Queen, the jurist was giving Kaysen a slap on the wrist. It was the judge that overrode the jurist and gave Kaysen 10 years. Yes, because they only wanted him to get 2. But the judge said it was aggravated circumstances, okay, because of the weapon he brought. I think that knife was like 5.5 inches, and he wasn't supposed to have it at school anyway. So, yeah, because there were aggravating factors, the judge made it 10 years. That was the max. The judge may have given him more than that, but he got that because it was the max. And that was all due to the mitigating factors. Now, here's the thing. His attorneys are currently appealing that. Yeah, they're appealing that. They went back down to the 2 years. And if that's the case, he'll be out of there. They win. But he doesn't deserve to be out. He's a whole cold-blooded killer. The same thing they want to try to paint Carmelo as. Like this is how you know it's all cap. Okay, this dude is a cold-blooded murderer, in my opinion. He even told someone days before he did it that he was going to put him in ICU. It's premeditated. Okay? Premeditated. So...
You know, interesting enough, Texas, another case out in Texas that was big in around 2013 was the Ethan Couch matter. The kid it wasn't a kid, but the affluenza defense.
Oh, yeah. No, there was a teenager. He was like 16.
It was a manslaughter charge.
You're talking about when he hit those 4 people?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they gave him a slap on the wrist. And they made up something because affluenza, that's what they called it, right? Basically said because he was rich and privileged that he didn't understand the consequences of the law. I mean, that's a whole load of BS. That's how you know they keep moving the goalpost. Now you're making up stuff. That's what they're doing. They're making up stuff to get their people freed. Because who ever heard of that? And here's the thing. I thought the rule was ignorance of the law is no excuse. So even if he suffers from affluenza, which they clearly made up, and they want us to think that he didn't understand consequences because of his lavish lifestyle, I'm sorry, but y'all already told us that ignorance of the law is no excuse. So how does that even make sense? It doesn't.
Well, and again, he had a great attorney. He had an attorney.
Yeah. Let me tell you something about that. these people in some cases may have good attorneys, but also a lot of it plays into racial bias, period.
Well, yeah, that too.
Some
Yeah,
of these people
money.
don't even have good attorneys and they still get a better deal than a black person would. Also, it depends on what judge you go before, because I've studied some cases in Florida about this particular judge that's nefarious. He actually gave, I mean, he always gives black people much stiffer penalties than white people for the same exact crime. Okay. And there was a black guy, he gave him like 28 years for a robbery. And then the white guy got the same robbery, and they both had the same history as far as prior, trouble they had been in or whatever. And they had like the same amount of what do they call it? Credits or numbers or whatever. And so the white guy got like 3 years. So I'm sorry, the judicial system is biased against black people, period. And it doesn't matter to me whether you have a good lawyer or not. Sometimes you're going to get off just because of the complexion for the protection. That's just the case. And here's the thing too. When I have researched cases where people have been exonerated, and most of the people exonerated are black people, because black people are the main ones unlawfully and wrongfully convicted. So in many of those cases, there were all white jurors, juries who convicted these people.
Okay. Well, yeah. And in that case, so yeah, you're correct. There's always a racial bias that's present in there, but also there's a class perspective in that too. That kid in the affluenza case came from wealthy parents, and
he was also white.
He was, well, yeah, obviously. But
so if it was let's say if it was a rich black person, we could say it's class all day. But if it was a rich black person or black person in his situation, you think they would have gotten the same thing? They're just going to make up a term?
Well, no, I said that there's
so.
I said there was a racial bias in everything. I mean, O.J. Simpson had money, and look how he turned out. Michael Jackson had money, and look how he turned. What happened?
Yeah, but him. Michael Jackson was actually innocent.
Well, no, he was innocent. But my point, beyond the proof of innocence or guilt, is not what I'm saying. I'm talking about the fact that you can have all the money. What I'm saying is you can have all the money in the world, and they still will treat you like a boy, which is what they did. So yes, if you were, do I think if that affluent Ethan Counts were a black kid, would he have gotten a stiffer sentence? More than likely, yeah. I think he would have gotten it. And I wasn't laughing at it, but I was making the point that his attorney, whoever it was, yeah, they did the fact that they got something that ridiculous, because I've never heard of that, and was able to get probation for 10 years, essentially for four people tragically no longer being here as a result of his actions. I thought that was something else. And I was in law school at the time that case was going on, but yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to play this next video. I want to hear what this guy has to say.
Carmelo Anthony's conviction means the case is over. Well, think again. Got a bunch of highly skilled lawyers here that are going to tackle the appeal on his behalf. And I think maybe one of three issues is what they're going to focus in on. And at the end, I'm going to let you know what I think maybe results in him getting a new trial. Number one, prosecutors broke the rules. If they hid some evidence, I mean, the internet is screaming with allegations of some video not shown, testimony not presented. If that's the case, he might get a new trial. Number two, bad lawyering. Let's just assume Anthony's lawyer was so bad that the outcome of the trial could have been different if he did better. Like maybe he failed to present evidence or challenge evidence, or he simply failed to do a proper investigation. New trial. Number three, maybe the judge got something wrong. If the jury receives incorrect legal instructions from the judge, important evidence is improperly admitted or excluded, new trial. What does Anthony's likely best result for a new trial? Jury selection, jury instructions, I think are going to be the focus of his attorneys. Think Carmelo Anthony.
Okay, let's go to this next video, because this person seems to think that Jeff Metcalf is rage baiting, and I have to agree. Okay, I absolutely have to agree. So let's go to this video. Now, I think this is the one with Sonny on there, because I think he tries to show like the example or whatever. So I'm going to put an overlay on here because I think it's going to show the view.
want you to watch this. But before that, I want to ask you a question. Do you know what rage bait is?
My opinion is they are of low IQ, no moral compass whatsoever, blinded by race, and generally a nuisance to society.
So let me break this down, right? First of all, who are these people?
Why aren't these people grasping that justice was served here?
Metcalf's dad is being marketed and promoted to keep hate in America. And most of us Americans are not even hateful people. But when you market it and you use it as propaganda, it fuels the hate. It makes the more racist people be even more racist.
Every video I've seen is a certain demographic. I don't see other people acting like this.
Now I asked you a question. I'm going to give you an assignment, right? And the assignment is this. So I want you to see how this is scripted. The assignment is to watch how every time Metcalf's dad, he uses the rage bait and to make it sound good and make him sound humble and wholesome.
Forgiveness is actually for me. So I don't carry the hate, the rage, the anger, because if you carry something like that inside you and you don't release it, it's like cancer.
He's going to say it every time. I forgave him. I forgave him. This is program rage bait. Cut your fucking news channels off. Quit watch. Make their fucking ratings go down. Y'all are fucking listening to this stupid ass shit. Watch some real fucking news. Cut your fucking TV off.
Okay, that's not the video, but I just found the one because I actually put the view. I titled it The View. Okay, so here's the thing. I absolutely agree. Okay, I absolutely agree because my thing is he claims to have forgiveness in his heart and he went there to pray, but then you turn around and disparage black people, talk about low IQs and all of this and watermelon felons. Okay, so he's disingenuous and I don't believe a word that he says, quite frankly. And not to mention that he's been alleged to have been coaching witnesses and even offered bribes to witnesses from what I have heard. Now, this is all alleged. Okay, but at the end of the day, when several people say he was nodding his head, telling the person what to say on the stand, yeah, and one of them worked for Court TV, I absolutely believe it. And then there was a woman, if you all remember, I showed you the video of a white woman who came outside and basically said that he was a bully just like his sons. That's where they learned it from, because he was trying to bully them out of their seats. Okay, so I really think that his sons learned their bad behaviors from him. Okay, now here's the video where they compare the things that he was saying to what Sonny was saying on The View, or they show like, back and forth.
They're looking to monetize the death of my son.
An issue for such a long time in the judicial system where prosecutors use what are called, Batson challenges. And they
explain what that is.
It's a challenge that is used to strike a juror, generally a juror of color, for a race-neutral reason.
Right.
Because you're supposed to have a jury of your peers, and you're not supposed to just strike someone because they're black. And in this case, they gave the reasoning that they're educators, and this happened, these were high school students, and this happened at a school track meet, so they couldn't be impartial because of that. I don't think that's an appropriate reason.
The best ones too.
Yeah, I don't think it's an appropriate reason to strike black jurors, especially when it's a young black teenager on trial, and especially when that particular area is made up of 10% of an African-American community. So I don't think he got a jury of his peers. So I think on appeal, there is a legitimate thing, a legitimate reason. I also think we have to look at self-defense here, because there seems to be two systems of justice at play in this country. And there have been for a very long time. I was part of the system, so I understand that, and I believe that to be true. In this case, this young man, you heard him say he put his hands on me, and I told him not to.
Sonny Hostin on The View saying, I don't understand how this couldn't possibly be self-defense. So what is your judgment of all these people in the media that have spoken on the case?
They're just like anybody else. They don't know me. They don't know Hunter Austin. They're looking for their 15 minutes of fame, or their clickbait, or their click. They're looking to.
Okay, he sounds real ridiculous saying that Sonny Hostin is looking for 15 minutes of fame. She already has it. Second of all, she doesn't need to sit there and paint a narrative. She is a lawyer. Okay, she is a lawyer, so she's speaking with legal expertise, unlike Jeff Metcalf, who's just speaking from his emotions. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't be, because he did lose his whole son. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, he doesn't want anyone saying anything that goes against the narrative, but there's freedom of speech. You don't just get to paint your own picture without anyone else contributing to it, okay? That's how that goes. Now, Robert says, they brought you here on a boat, sold you to us, we put you to work. Then you went to war for free. Then we went to war to free you. to free you. Jeffrey Metcalf, that is what he said. He acts like they did us a favor by freeing us from slavery when they're the ones who enslaved us. Okay, I'm sorry, make that make sense. Those are absolutely some of the things that he said that let us all know that he's a racist. Okay, that he's a racist. And he said some bigoted things as well during that 3-hour rant. Okay? That's what he did. So don't sit here, sir, and try to act like you're so holier than thou. Oh, I didn't want it to be about race and politics. I went there to pray with them. Yeah, you went there to pray on them, as far as I'm concerned. But let's continue.
Monetize the death of my son. I really wish they wouldn't speak about at all. Because one, if that woman said that, she has no idea about the facts of the case, but she wants to spew her public opinion on a platform that reaches millions of people every day. Do I have that platform? No, but today I have a little platform to say what I like. She is completely wrong.
That kid was 200 pounds. This kid was 130 pounds. And so, and the other kid was also taller than he is. He was the only black kid under the tent. And the victim here had his twin brother with him, who was also a very large person. If you don't fear for your life, if you weigh 130 pounds, I weigh 130 pounds. Facing somebody that's 200 pounds, I would be terrified of that. So I don't understand why self-defense was rejected by this jury. If you look at other cases, there was the other case where there was a young black kid who was chased by Rick Chow, a store owner, accused of taking water bottles, which he didn't take, the 4 water bottles. He chased that young boy 130 yards, which is half of a football field, and shot him in the back, claiming self-defense. And you know where he is right now? He's at home with his family because he was found not guilty.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cases like that.
If that is self-defense, I don't understand why this is.
When the system fails one time, I don't think we should then say, so then the system should fail.
But they're very similar self-defense claims.
I had a question because I was wondering why the self-defense claim didn't work. And I had read that it said you have to use the same amount of force that was brought against you. So if someone pushes you and you push them back, that's self-defense.
That's not the standard because it's not only use, but attempted use.
Well, no, that's what I'm asking.
So if you felt your life was in danger and you felt he was going to do more than just push you, and you weigh 130 pounds and you're outweighed by 70 pounds, so you can't use.
When I looked at this,
they're looking to monetize the death of my son.
They don't bring up. That's the part they don't want to talk about. Okay, I want you all to pay attention. That's the part that they don't talk about. They're saying you have to use the same amount of force. Okay, but if you're standing there and a big person that much larger than you shoves you, now remember, they say that one person testified that he was shoved so hard that he fell back onto someone by the name of Dustin. So clearly, if you have these 4 figures in front of you, they're all bigger than you, which one of them testified to, of course you're going to be fearful. Okay, no one can tell you what you were thinking at the end of the day. And see, this is why would have been very beneficial to have had a psychiatrist or psychologist in there, someone who could speak to Carmelo's his mindset at that time. Or, something else, Gavin, when we're talking about Carmelo testifying, right, on his own behalf, and you said that he could have gotten torn apart on the witness stand. Here's the thing. I was thinking about his attorney could have had a discussion with Carmelo, asking him how he was feeling, why he felt threatened, what was going through his head. He could have recorded that and played that, because in case in Allison's, in his trial, that's what they did. He didn't testify, but his attorney showed an audio recorded video of what he said. So that was speaking for him. So I feel like Mike Howard could have at least done that.
Yeah, at least, like I said before, a self-defense case they could have. You certainly want to hear, and even though the jurors are not supposed to hold it against a defendant, that why they can't hold against their right invoking the Fifth Amendment against them. So if they like to hear, if you're claiming self-defense, what was the reasoning in your mindset? So you as the attorney is trying to get the witness, which would be your client, to make the jury feel and step in your shoes, like, why did you feel the need to pull a knife out? Or why did you feel your life was threatened, or that you were about to receive great bodily harm? Who were these people? They came over. There wasn't a group. They came over and told you needed to leave, and you said no, and they kept putting your hands on you. Was that when you felt threatened? Had you had interactions with them before? And were they saying anything else that was in a threatening manner? Because actually, When you talk about assault and battery, those are two different things. An assault is when you actually put somebody in reasonable apprehension of receiving a battery, whereas a battery, and a lot of people don't know the difference, it's the actual contact that you make with the person. So two things could have happened here, obviously, with Carmelo. He was obviously battered because we know that hands were put on him. He was also assaulted. So I think that, like I said, having the right attorney or having an attorney ask the right questions and the right strategy mattered. And picking a jury actually is where a trial is won. Because, like I stated before, and you saw Mark Garagos, you saw George Zimmerman's lawyer, when they had no blacks on that jury, and I believe it was 6 jurors, they automatically, I knew already when I was watching that case that they were going to win that, because they didn't have anybody from that jury that had that experience, like Trayvon did or Carmelo. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay. And here's the thing. At the end of the day, when an attorney does not act in their fiduciary duty, they don't do their due diligence. Okay, so now listen. Something happened with the internet. I'm about to wrap this up in a second anyway, but here's the thing. As far as I'm concerned, there are very good reasons for an appeal. In my opinion, there were a whole lot of missteps that occurred, and I think that's going to be very beneficial for Carmelo. But here's the thing I want to say before I close out. Okay, so a guilty person, now I want you all to pay attention, because even if someone is guilty, if it is deemed that their trial was unfairly conducted, then they can still get their case overturned. Okay, so at the end of the day, when you have all these procedural errors, prosecutorial misconduct, all these different things that we feel were problematic, if these things are deemed as such by the appellate courts, well, it absolutely can get overturned, whether certain people think that he's guilty or not. Okay? Okay. OG Patrice said, I second that motion, Queen. All right. So anyway, with that all being said, I'm about to conclude the broadcast. Jim Broadway said the devil is trying to stop the truth. I rebuke you, devil. Yeah, exactly. Because what even happened? Okay, what even happened? Okay, so anyway, listen. Hold on, let me see if there's any more videos I wanted to show you all before I go out of here. Before I roll out, I think that was the last one. But, like I said, with these previous cases that I pulled up, specifically the fish case, it's just really a shame that Mike Howard didn't even do that. That's the very least he could have done, was brought up some of these similar cases, okay, and how they were ruled on. And he didn't do any of that. No objections, and all of these things are just issues. So Carolyn says, yes, Queen, very good reasons that you mentioned for this thing to be overturned. Exactly. Okay, I absolutely think so. I absolutely think so. So I'm going to conclude this broadcast. It's already over 2 hours. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Please like and share. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Okay. Oh, you sent a super chat, beloved. Thank you. Let me look for it. Also, just to let you all know, the chat is not going to be here. Shout out to the replay gang. But when you all watch it on the replay, the chat's going to be gone because Gavin said the C word. Okay. Thanks to y'all harassing him in the chat. Listen, I want you all to remember and be mindful that you don't say disparaging things, okay, or rude things when we have guests on the channel. Even if you disagree with them, okay, please keep it cute, okay? We don't want to make the guests feel bad. All right, FBI Justice says, any critical thinking Black person knows how ineffective his counsel was, and nobody can tell me that it wasn't intentional. Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. We're not even attorneys, and we see all of the missteps that happened. This man listen, if he was just some fresh out of law school attorney, this was his first murder trial that he was working, we could say, okay, he just didn't know what he was doing. It was his first one out the gates. This man's been doing this for decades, at least 2. Okay, and he's been the best defense attorney in Dallas 10 years straight. So nobody's going to convince me, just like FBA Justice said, that this man did not know what he was doing. He absolutely did. Okay, he absolutely did. So thank you for your insight into the topic, beloved, and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Okay, so I'm going to conclude this, and I'll see you all in the morning with your morning wake-up call. But for the replay gang, beloved, shout out to you, but the chat's going to be gone, okay, when you view it on the replay. I hate that. I hate that, but y'all make Gavin say the C word because y'all put it in the chat. And for future references, you're not supposed to put that word in the chat either. I would appreciate if you didn't. I mean, you can, but I don't want you to put that in the chat. Okay? I love you too, Alice. Okay, Open 642 says they're just using it to get paid doing nothing. Yeah, that is what Mike Howard did, in my opinion. He got all that money and didn't do anything. Okay? Didn't do anything. Queen, you kind of gave the green light when you agreed. Well, here's the thing. I mean, I did agree that when he said he didn't want to, I think it was when he said he didn't want to second guess the attorney. We're all second guessing the attorney. Okay? I mean, at the end of the day, I did agree. It felt like if you're not getting conclusive answers, that was my whole point. FBA mom reparations says both parents had GoFundMes. Yes, they did. And I'm like, why? I could see if they had the GoFundMes after Austin's death and they maybe needed help with the funeral arrangements or whatever. But at the end of the day, you know, I don't know why they would still have them. Why do you still need them is my question. I don't really care, but I'm just saying for the sake of argument, because they keep talking about Carmelo's family and how they misappropriated the funds. Okay, so my question is, if they want to talk about that, I'll talk about this. All right. Pretty Wing said, I appreciate Gavin's expertise. I do too. I do too. And we don't always agree, but I do appreciate his expertise. Marie James said Megan got $200,000 and Jeff got $630,000. Wonder why he got so much more than she did. You know why he got so much more than she did, in my opinion? It's because he's doing these press runs. It's because he's going around doing these interviews and stuff. He did that 3-hour rant and all of that. I'm sure they loved it. But I find it interesting that he's accusing people of monetizing off of his son, but that's exactly what he's doing. Okay, I'm sorry, it's true. That's what he's doing. And the GoFundMe proves that. Okay? So anyway, with that all being said, I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this evening. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. And until next time, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.
With that gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. That's See right. A bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece. This time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen.